Welcome back. Our sponsors at Bryant Stratton are committed to aiding their students in overcoming social barriers. And here with me now with more details is Dr. Christian Blum. Thanks so much for coming in today, Dr.
Thanks
Blum.
very much, Chelsea.
Of course. I want you to first actually talk about this book, Bandwidth Recovery, and what bandwidth means in the context that you guys are kind of, focusing your programming on.
Absolutely. So bandwidth recovery really is, looking at the notion of bandwidth, is our cognitive bandwidth. So it's our ability to process information in the world that is around us. And from an education standpoint, it really is the ability of our students in the classroom to be able to study, to process information, and to learn. And what Verschelden's research shows us is that as people go through traumatic situations, difficult situations, think about COVID, think about the recent election and people's different perspectives on it. What it does is it soaks up our bandwidth as an individual, and the more bandwidth that's soaked up, the negative effect that it has on us individually to be able to learn information in our classes and really, in a sense, even in everyday life.
That's right. And what's something special about Bryant Stratton is you guys really have students from all different walks of life and in different stages in their lives.
Yes.
And external stressors like poverty, racism, that can really deplete students' cognitive resources. So can you explain how these factors affect a student's ability to learn and thrive in educational settings?
Absolutely. Our Buffalo campus, especially downtown, was affected so traumatically by the TOPS shooting a couple of years ago. And, we had students where it's tough to teach an accounting course or an allied health class when you have a student who literally just lost a loved one in that shooting. And then you talk about the basic physiological needs. If you don't have a roof over your head, if you don't have food, and you don't have the necessary just basic resources to sustain yourself, put aside the physiological, the biological, you don't literally have the energy to study. But then when you're worried about where that next paycheck is going to come from, where that next meal is going to come from, it has such a horrible negative effect on your ability to really focus and be successful academically.
Right. So, the book offers practical strategies to help students reclaim their bandwidth. What are some of the most effective approaches educators and institutions can take and implement to support students facing these challenges?
Absolutely. Verschelden talks about three things, and the first is trauma-informed instruction. It's a recognition that when students do experience traumatic situations, there are things that act as or function as triggers, and it's having an awareness in the classroom of what those things might be. It's also recognizing that with how polarized we are as a country these days, we need to create safe spaces in our classroom. And so really having a focus on that in terms of lesson planning and supporting of our students. The second thing also is the concept of mindfulness and reflection, and giving students a space to not only think about what they're learning in the classroom in terms of their career futures, but also something that's a very important aspect for us as a college is the life futures of our students. And the third is taking what they learn in the classroom and seeing what the real world applications are of these concepts.
Yeah, that's huge. So what lessons has Bryant Stratton College used from the book to support student success?
I think the biggest thing that we've had an impact on, that's impacted us in the classroom and outside the classroom probably in the last year and a half or so, is our wraparound services. We have a full-time faculty member, Riley Rayford Graham, who created a center across all three of our campuses where we provide basic needs for our students. We have used a bunch of different Western New York resources to bring in things like food, basic resources, all of that. And then the other thing also is we have spent a lot more time with our faculty in the last couple of years through faculty development initiatives, really helping our faculty to understand what that trauma-informed classroom looks like, how we can support our students. And the last thing is, and this is kind of college-wide for the 4 states we operate in, our online division is what we call career life prep. And recognizing that we need to also help our students to understand that there are techniques out there to recover bandwidth, to expand bandwidth, and that's something that we have pretty significantly drilled into our curriculum, especially our core curriculum experience.
Why does bandwidth recovery resonate with people more so today than it might have in the past?
I think it's just all that we've been through. If you think about COVID, going back to 2019, we all spent some time in isolation. We spent time in quarantine. We spent time being cut off from individuals. We had the trauma worldwide, literally, of not knowing whether or not we were going to get sick tomorrow and whether or not we were going to be able to recover from those situations. We think about some of the political and social strife we've had within our nation. That's also something that soaks away bandwidth from us also. And I just think the world is a much different place than it was probably 20 or 30 years ago. And this idea of our bandwidth being impacted by it is just something that resonates so much more with people.
Right. Is there anything else that we should know about this topic?
I think the most important thing for all of us is that it is possible to recover your bandwidth.
Yes.
When there are instances where you are going through difficult and challenging situations, that power of mindfulness and that power of reflection is something that can really help people. And we do have the ability, especially if you're in a growth mindset, as Carol Dweck talks about, you can grow and you can evolve and you can expand your bandwidth, but that's something that does take a sense of having an awareness of it and having a willingness to really try to expand it.
That's right. I think that's the key, awareness about what your faculty and your students might be going through and implementing the keys to success so that everyone has the ability to take in information, get their education, and utilize it in a healthy way. So thank you so much for coming in and sharing more about this, Dr. Blum. Viewers, if you would like to learn more about our sponsors at Bryant and Stratton, you can go over to their website at bryantandstratton.edu.